betrayal. Then one of the 12 disciples, the one named Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and asked, "What will you give me if I betray Jesus to you?" They counted out 30 silver coins and gave them to him. From then on, Judas was looking for a good chance to hand Jesus over to them. On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked him, "Where do you want us to go for the Passover meal to get it ready for you?" "Go to a certain man in the city," he said to them, "and tell him, 'The teacher says, my hour has come. My disciples and I will celebrate the Passover at your house.'" The disciples did as Jesus had told them and prepared the Passover meal. When it was evening, Jesus and the 12 disciples sat down to eat. During the meal, Jesus said, "Tell you, one of you will betray me." The disciples were very upset and began to ask him, one after another, "Surely, Lord, you don't mean me?" Jesus answered, "One who dips his bread in the dish with me will betray me. The Son of Man will die as the scriptures say he will, but how terrible for that man who will betray the Son of Man. It would have been better for that man if he had never been born." Judas, the traitor, spoke up. "Surely, teacher, you don't mean me?" he asked. Then Jesus answered, "So you say."
Aloneness. They came to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took Peter, James, and John with him. Distress and anguish came over him, and he said to them, "The sorrow of my heart is so great that it almost crushes me. Stay here and keep watch." He went a little further on, threw himself on the ground, and prayed that if possible, he might not have to go through that time of suffering. "Father," he prayed, "my Father, all things are possible for you. Take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want." He then returned and found the 3 disciples asleep. He said to Peter, Simon, are you asleep? Weren't you able to stay awake for even 1 hour? And he said to them, keep watch and pray that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away one more time and prayed, saying the same words. Then he came back to the disciples and found them asleep. They could not keep their eyes open, and they did not know what to say to him. When he came back the third time, he said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? Enough! The hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is now being handed over to the power of sinful men. Get up, let's go. Look, here is the man who is betraying me.
Accusation. The chief priest and the whole council tried to find some evidence against Jesus in order to put him to death, but they could not find any. Many witnesses told lies against Jesus, but their stories did not agree. Then some men stood up and told this lie against Jesus. We heard him say, I will tear down the temple which men have made, and after 3 days I will build one that is not made by men. Not even they, however, could make the stories agree.
Denial. Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard when one of the high priest's servant girls came to him and said, "You too were with Jesus of Galilee." But he denied it in front of them all. "I don't know what you are talking about," he answered, and went on out to the entrance of the courtyard. Another servant girl saw him and said to the men there, "He was with Jesus of Nazareth." Again, Peter denied it and answered, "I swear that I don't know that man." After a little while, the men standing there came to Peter. "Of course you are one of them," they said. "After all, the way you speak gives you away." Then Peter said, "I swear that I am telling the truth. May God punish me if I am not. I do not know that man." Just then, a rooster crowed, and Peter remembered what Jesus had told him. "Before the rooster crows, you will say 3 times that you do not know me." He went out and wept bitterly.
Crucifixion. The soldiers led Jesus away, and as they were going, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, who was coming into the city from the country. They seized him, put the cross on him, and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large crowd of people followed him. Among them were some women who were weeping and wailing for him. Jesus turned to them and said, "Women of Jerusalem, don't cry for me, but for yourselves and your children. For the days are coming where people will say, 'How lucky are the women who never had children, who never bore babies, who never nursed them.' That will be the time when the people will say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Hide us.' For if such things are done when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry?" 2 other men, both of them criminals, were also led up to be put to death with Jesus. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there, and the 2 criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Jesus said, "Forgive them, Father, they don't know what they are doing." They divided his clothes among themselves by throwing dice. The people stood by there watching while the Jewish leaders made fun of him.
He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Messiah whom God has chosen." The soldiers also made fun of him. They came up to him and offered him cheap wine and said, "Save yourself if you are the king of the Jews." Above him were written these words, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals hanging there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." The other one, however, rebuked him, saying, "Don't you fear God? You received the same sentence he did. Ours is only right because we are getting what we deserve for what we did. But he has done no wrong." And he said to Jesus, "Remember me, Jesus, when you come as king." Jesus said to him, "I promise you that today you will be in paradise with me."
The death of Jesus. It was about 12 o'clock when the sun stopped shining and darkness covered the whole country until 3 o'clock. And the curtain hanging in the temple was torn in two. Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Father, in your hands I place my spirit." He said this and died.